everyone. My name is Justin Odell, and I'm going to be going over Module 7, which is the wrap-up of the course. I'm going to start off with my philosophy of online teaching. So my philosophy is online teaching is effective if done correctly. I can give students an outlet to learn better with their learning experiences. And I said that teachers must have qualities they read about early in the course, such as passion, patience, and dedication and motivation. In an online learning community, I think building a community is very important because it establishes routines and inclusion, especially in an online environment where students are through screens. I think it's important to start that off on the right note so students know the expectations and know what engagement should look like from the teacher, because it's the teacher's job to start that and then involve the kids in their own learning. I plan to make online learning changes in the classroom where students can explore more tools and use platforms to communicate. We had a part in the module where everyone shared online tools, and I actually tried out some of those tools like Pear Deck. I've tried out Padlet in the classroom for math, and it's really brought out some personalities in my students, which was awesome to see. So it was cool to see some of the stuff we learned through online teaching, and me being able to use it in the classroom, which was very cool. Authentic learning I put as one of some of the things that I plan on doing more with teaching tools through online learning. So I wanted to have a kind of way for students to choose their learning style and choose how to do a project, a homework assignment. I think if I could have projects or higher order thinking questions in math and problem-based learning through maybe Seesaw or other apps, I think it would involve students in collaboration and working together more where they can learn from each other and then keep track of their learning. So I think making it more authentic for them is something that is a future goal of mine in the classroom. Personal relevance I also put from one of our readings. Making sure there's current news topics. Maybe if I'm doing a guided reading station, they can read about current news topics and do some writing on it. And using social media more for lessons in terms of finding interests that they have and then using it for project learning or using it to help them understand math better or social studies, depending on what learning standard or learning target we're doing in the classroom. And then making active learning more of the thing in my classroom. So keeping track of students' learning, building a community where they keep track of their own learning and where they could see progress and improvements. That means meeting with them, grading my stuff on time, leaving good feedback, making sure I'm communicating with parents. So it's a whole involvement where each part of the system is working together so the student can really get the best learning experience they can in the classroom and through an online learning experience. The next slide is the social and emotional piece. So through learning, we learned about synchronous learning and asynchronous learning, and I think social and emotional learning is really cool in the classroom, and I was really shocked of how effective it could be through online learning through the modules. So I put some synchronous and asynchronous things together to talk about. Self-awareness through check-ins could be synchronous, Google Docs, breakout rooms, messages and chats, apps, emojis. I know we had to do the one assignment where we had to have a couple students or a couple of family members and kind of teach a lesson. And I was able to use some emojis and some little activities before I started my lesson that were really helpful. And it really made an impact with my students because they felt comfortable to share throughout that lesson. Building relationship skills and responsible decision making. So encouraging positive feedback, saying good job, claps, snaps when someone's doing an awesome job. Using kindness words and having a words of affirmation that you can go through every day. Using videos as a way for them to kind of calm themselves down if they're having trouble in the classroom and to go to another place or a breakout room where they can feel their emotions, get it all out, and then join us back, and then they can communicate with their teacher. The supportive guidance of active listening. So active listening means everyone's attentive and paying attention to each other and modeling for students how to cope with situations so there isn't any arguing, or if there is an argument, we can work through it, even in an online learning format. And then practice of routines, letting students use online resources to communicate in different ways, and making sure that when they're using those resources, they know how to use them, why they're using them, and how it can help them cope with their emotions. Asynchronously, I put that self-management can be a good toolbox for them to use. So modeling how to control emotions and having an online toolbox. I thought Symbaloo, which is one of the teaching tools that I applied into this course, when we had our one activity where we had to pick a tool, I think it'd be a good tool for everything to be in one page where students can use resources for them for their social and emotional learning that goes with all of the SLE guidelines we learned about with relationship skills and making sure they're having self-management of their behavior. So I think it'd be a really cool idea to have it in one area so students know where to go to use those resources, and then they can say, hey, can I use this? Is this a good time for me to use this? Which one can I use? Or if they just want to go on their own and use one that they feel is best for them at the moment, and that can kind of start them in a way of getting used to using those tools in the classroom. Letting students use journals to keep track of their goals. So in the Danielson framework we read about, there was a section where it said keeping journals about how students are doing. They can keep track of their goals and keep them motivated in the classroom so they're feeling self-motivated and feeling that intrinsic motivation where they can go ahead and continue things throughout the classroom. Because I think if they have a really good mindset and a future goal ahead, they can work through those emotions and keep focusing towards that goal they're trying to accomplish. Having schedules and tutorials to involve parents and others who are a support system is important. The communication at home and making sure students and families are involved together really helps the child at best, and that's very important for online learning too, especially when you can't always see what's going on behind the screen. Family members can help with certain things if they are there, and it can create that bond between the student, family, and teacher. And then publishing a platform where there's positive messaging at the end of class, the beginning of class, posting a board or a Padlet maybe where everyone can kind of comment and check in on everyone and give positive messages and give shout outs. So it makes sure the students understand and know that the community is safe and we're encouraging each other. So with this comes a social presence model, and this model helps teachers and learners be aware of the online environment. This model plays a big role in effective association, community cohesion, interaction, knowledge and experience, and instructor involvement. So I kind of broke it down a little bit. I'm going to explain some of these. So effective association, I think the most important part is using emotion through online learning and making sure you're using emojis and using good facial expressions and keeping involved and keeping active and making sure you're having fun with the learning so students are present and active when you're teaching. I think it's going to give them more of an outlet where they can forget about anything that's been going on and feel like they're in a different world when they come into your classroom. Community cohesion, using learning styles to create less stress. So that means using asynchronous, synchronous learning and making sure that whatever you're doing through your learning is creating an environment where students come in and they don't feel stressed out. They feel like they can speak out and not get judged on what they're talking about. So talking about that and having resources to go to when students feel confused or need help with emotion or just knowledge of content. So they are struggling with something and they didn't want to talk that day, they can come in class the next time and feel like they're ready to talk. Interaction intensity, making sure student interactions benefit from discussion, and so students can bounce off ideas from each other. So making sure you're guiding that discussion, and then eventually after time, the students can have their own discussion. Then having routines set in place, so if students get off topic with the task, you can kind of make your way in there as a teacher and say, hey, let's get back on track instead of creating interruptions. Because I know we were reading through the articles on the social presence model that some of the negative effects of it were sometimes students felt that there was interruptions because people were talking too much. So having those procedures in place would really help that. And then having students with knowledge help each other out because, students can be really helpful and sometimes they have knowledge about technology even more than teachers. So having a way for students to share their knowledge with others is awesome because it still builds on the community feeling like they're a part of it. And then making sure the instructor is being prompt and checking in on work, videos, resources, and giving opportunities for students, making sure they're there all the time giving feedback so students know what they're doing really well and what they can improve on. Makes the student feel like they're not forgotten in the classroom, and that way everyone can get a chance to do their greatest in that lesson or in that course. So did I learn from the readings, and how did all of this stuff inform my work, and some activities and concepts I'm going to put into place? So this really made me think more about this whole course. Was the really thing that stuck out to me was accessibility and design of my presentations to accommodate others. I thought that was really unique when we had to use like PowerPoint and include all of the captions, or making sure the reading went from top to bottom, creating bullet points. And I'm using some of those things here with the bullet points and trying to keep stuff organized through PowerPoint. So I thought it was really interesting with all of that, and the UDL design that we learned about, which engagement, representation, and action expression, making sure that there's audio on stuff, and making sure that there's accountability for everything and inclusion, and making sure that you're accommodating for all those needs was a really cool experience to just kind of read through and see what better ways I can do that in my classroom. Because sometimes with technology, I feel like I don't do it enough, so I was able to kind of add some things in with Seesaw and do some things where my ELL students are now benefiting from it some more. I also loved reading about the blended learning framework and station rotation model. As an elementary teacher, I am now using that in my classroom for math, and it is making a huge difference. I mean, my students are going on YouTube, and they're going through Seesaw, and they're going through other apps I have included, and they're learning and kind of picking their own style of learning. And then when they come to my group to learn, they already had some work on the concept we're doing, or the standard we're doing. So when they come, they're ready and they can understand more. And it's really cool that I can structure resources on their platforms, and they can really enjoy using them and work with them through manipulatives online and work hands-on with everything. So it was really cool to see how the blended learning model is working in my classroom. And then using tools such as Padlet, Seesaw, SimBlue, Pear Deck, whiteboard apps, I've been trying those in my classroom. They've been awesome. Students can all see each other's work in one place. Students can have apps in one place. Students can comment and leave feedback with each other. And we've kind of created an environment now where we're making learning fun and giving each other opportunities to share and work off each other. And it's really creating higher order thinking in the classroom. And then creating more resources for my ELLs, gifted students, or students with a disability. So I want to make sure that I'm including everyone and making sure resources are accommodated. So if I'm doing, for example, a reading assignment in social studies, and it's a really hard one, I accommodate the ELLs with audio. My gifted students might have a harder article, and then I might include some other things with a PowerPoint or something through Seesaw if a student has a disability, and making sure that whatever that is, whatever there's in their IEP is accommodated for in terms of how I structure my learning in the classroom. So it was a really, I would say, eye-awakening experience for me, for making sure I really am looking at the broader lens of how can I make my classroom better in that way. And then I included from Rice, which was Chapter 8 from 2012, in an article. It says accommodations, modifications, and use of the online handbook to make viewing of resources and the reading of resources easier, making sure that those IEPs are being followed all the time, and making sure that all those accommodations and modifications are helping my students, and what I can do better every day to make sure they are getting more resources and better learning experiences every day in the classroom, especially when stuff gets harder throughout the year. And ahas about online teaching. So what I really kind of got away and was shocked about from online teaching is how similar it is in preparation atmosphere of being in person. There's a lot of stuff that we read in the beginning of the course that was really lines up with being in person, and I think online teaching sometimes can be looked at as, oh, it's easier, or they're through the screen, so there's not much behavior stuff. But looking through, it's the same thing. There's I give props to online teachers with all they have to do with preparation, making sure they create structure through an online learning classroom routine, making sure they're giving feedback. I know professors I've had in classes giving feedback was awesome, and I wonder sometimes when they have 26 people how they can go through and give all that feedback, and they give very good feedback. So I kind of appreciate that, and then I'm putting that into my teaching now by giving students feedback in class, and then through Seesaw when I do activities, I give them feedback similar to how professors are giving me feedback, because I think it's important that online learning is a integration in the classroom, so students can have opportunity to use iPads and stuff like that, because they're so used to it now that it is creating a way for them to boost their learning. So I think it's awesome to see how you can use online resources in that way, and it's very similar to how you prepare in person. And the different ways you can bring out student personalities, because they have a choice. You can give choice boards for students to complete activities. They could do a project, a PowerPoint, a writing assignment. There's so much more ways to do it instead of paper and pencil. And that's cool for students to kind of broaden their horizon with those learning opportunities. And the social emotional piece of online learning, I was always wondering how you could do that through online learning and through Zoom, but I was able to see through all the discussion boards and what everyone posted, that it is really cool to see how people have brought the social emotional piece through the online learning. And I think it's important that that keeps up, because students need that, especially to be successful in the classroom. I can just think about it right now with a couple of students in my classroom. Having that piece is very important for them to be successful. So overall, everything I learned in this course was very effective. I think I took a lot away from my philosophy of online learning and how effective it is, and all the tools we learned, all the adaptations, the accessibility options, all the tools, and having a presence of how to be the most effective teacher through an online learning focus. So it was very cool to learn about all these things and apply them and then discuss them in the posts.